Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 69 of the Star Bros podcast. We are excited to be with you this evening to celebrate the middle of the third season. What season are we in? The third season of The
Third season.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Time is passing fast. Wow. How are you doing this evening, good sir?
I'm doing well. Bro host Ben Skywalker.
Oh, yeah, you're my bro host, Jan Solo. That's my bro host, Jan Solo, everyone.
And how are you doing,
Introduced.
buddy? How's
I'm
everything?
good, but I imagine I'm not as good as you because you've left me lonely at work this week.
I apologize.
Yeah,
But I did get away
good.
for a little bit. I went down to Miami and then we were in New York City.
Yeah.
And now I am in the capital of the universe, the Coruscant, if you will, the Philadelphia suburbs.
That's the Coruscant. That's like level 3 of Coruscant. Just kidding. Actually, Philly
I
is
heard,
pretty-
I think it's cool. I heard a stand-up comedian say recently that nobody ever says anything like, hey, if you really want to make it in your industry, you got to go to Philly. You, you got to be where the action is. You got to get yourself to Philadelphia. Nobody ever dreams of moving to the city of Philadelphia.
Hey, I did.
You did.
I did actually dream of it. and
You're
I
living
did
your
it.
dream.
I am living my dream.
What a
In
treat.
the Philadelphia suburbs, way out beyond the Philadelphia suburbs at this point.
Pretty much, you're in the metro area.
Yeah, I'm in the county that is considered still the suburbs of Philly.
I think
But
so.
I'm right on the outskirts of it, like literally on the edge of it. So
yeah, you're in the outer rim of the metro area.
yeah. But before people start pulling up a map to try to figure out where I am and hunt me down for all the terrible things I've said to annoy this fandom, let's move on to something else a little bit more positive.
Sure.
Happy belated birthday, bro.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
I didn't even say it in the pre-session of us just riffing a little bit.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Happy
I
birthday.
appreciate it.
Did you have a good one?
Yeah, I had a really good one. We spent my actual birthday day in New York City, which we love going up there, and had some good food and went to Spyscape. You ever heard of that? It's like an interactive spy museum.
Yeah, you told me all about it.
All the typical spy stuff, crawling through lasers in a tunnel and stuff like that.
I don't know what a typical spy thing is because all I know is what the movies show me, and most of those are from comedic purposes, you know?
Yeah, some of that stuff was in there. Like some of it was kind of fun and silly, but it was also like a museum.
Yeah, but like for example, like the thing in their belt, like it's a grappling hook that bursts out, grabs onto stuff.
Yeah, you're thinking of Batman.
It just rips their pants off, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was not part of the fun.
That wasn't?
No.
Oh man, that would be like the feature in my museum, my spy museum. I mean,
I can't wait to visit your spy museum one day.
But then again, I'm just thinking of like Get Smart. You know, remember that? Do you remember that movie? Well, I mean, it was based off a TV show, wasn't it? Forever ago, and then they made a movie.
Who was the lead in that?
Steve Carell.
That's what I thought. Okay, I might have to go back and watch that.
And I think The Rock was the villain in it.
Really? Wow.
Well, he's not really the villain. It's and Anne Hathaway was in it.
Yeah. Okay, this is coming back to me.
Yeah, there's some pretty good moments in there actually. So
awesome.
Anyway, there's no Steve Carell memorials there.
No, nothing having to do with Steve Carell at all. Unfortunately,
anything Star Wars related in there?
No, nothing Star Wars related. I always kind of have my eye out for that stuff. The one thing that I saw that was Star Wars related that I mentioned to you was we ended up having to take the bus back, and where we picked up the bus was in a neighborhood right around the Javits Center, and they had a huge billboard right in front of the Javits Center where we went to New York Comic-Con of Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
So that was like the one big Star Wars-y thing of the day that I got to see.
Which, I mean, that's one thing I would love about living in New York City is like it's the epicenter of everything, and so yeah, you get to see like humongous ads for the next pop culture thing that's coming out.
Oh yeah,
they're getting millions of eyes every single day. I mean, if they just sold in New York, then that would be enough to keep them going for a long time. So, but yeah, so I part of me wishes that I could, be there just to see all that, but alas, I'll just visit every once in a while.
Yeah, same here. Like when we were up there for New York Comic-Con, One of the ads in Times Square, remember, was the next phase of the High Republic that they were running,
Yeah,
which is super, super cool. And I actually just remembered one other Star Warsy thing. So we stopped into the Lego store on Fifth Avenue,
of course.
one of the big Lego stores.
Hmm.
The Star Wars selection that they had there was pretty incredible.
That's cool.
Basically anything you could think of. And if you go in there on your birthday,
Which you did.
yes, they give you just sort of like the torso and the arms of a minifig.
Okay.
And then you can go and pick a head, legs, and a hat to complete your minifig for free.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah, and the minifig says it's my birthday on the front of its shirt and Fifth Avenue Lego store on the back of it. It was cool.
I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, Jess was buying some stuff and the guy could tell that we were tourists and he was like, "So what are you guys doing here?" And Jess was like, we're celebrating my husband's birthday." And he was like, "Oh, I've got something for you." And then he pulled out this little minifig and there's like a huge like thing
So
where
you didn't know that before you walked in there.
No,
They
no, no.
surprised you.
And then you can dig through and you can like pick out different hairdos and whatever.
See,
So
that's how they know that you're not lying then, because you were just completely shocked by that. You're like,
oh
"Oh, we just
yeah,
wanted to go to the Lego store," and it's
yeah,
just happened to
totally
be
caught
his
off
birthday.
guard. Yeah.
So
So
cool.
I'll send you a picture of my little minifig.
I wanna see it, yeah. I looked up at all mine that are sitting on my shelf above me as you were talking. I was like,
Cool.
"Oh, there's my Star Wars minifigs." The little, Luke with the blue mustache is up there
Love it.
that
Very
I
cool.
got with my, Star Wars Lego video game, which I've been playing more of lately, actually.
Oh, nice. Because I remember you saying that you're going to try to go back and complete all this stuff that you
Yes.
might have missed or skipped over.
Yeah, like, get all of the characters unlocked and stuff like that, yeah.
Cool.
So, working my way through that, but, hey, why don't we get into the meat of the episode now? Now
Yeah.
that we've,
Yeah.
celebrated your birthday, I'm glad it was a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone out there, send Jan a little bit of love there on social media, wherever, and just say happy belated and,
Thank
spam
you.
him with all the
Yes.
love.
No, don't do
But
that. No spam.
I know that you love that so much. You love being the center of attention.
Yep. All right. Enough jibber jabber.
Let's get into the first segment, and that one's called News from Across the Galaxy. I tried to surprise you a little bit with that, but
Yeah, I wasn't ready, but our little jingle was.
yeah,
Thankfully.
you know how to get that guy out and murdered very quickly.
You could say that. Okay.
I don't know what word. I was like, what word do I go with? That's the one I went with.
That's a fair assessment. Although he keeps coming back, so he survives somehow. But
Yes, exactly.
So what do we got in the news this week?
Okay, well, I didn't have that much that I could find. I mean, there were a little like, there's always speculation that's out there. We're not going to try to cover that.
We don't like reporting that.
Nope. There were some more episodes of the Bad Batch again.
Awesome.
And we're nearing the end here.
People love it.
Yeah, I think so. It's been really good. I feel like there are some episodes that fall a little bit flat for others, but the episodes that are really good have been like top notch, some of the best Star Wars we've ever received. So
yeah, wow.
like you got the highs and the lows all kind of mixed together, and really the lows aren't that bad. It's just like, okay, that was another one. There was one episode this week that was kind of like that, but in a way, it was really nice. It was the first episode was Pabu. It was a bit more tranquil, and we're used to like the Bad Batch just jumping from job to job to job. And there was a line in it though that I really liked, that I thought I'd throw out there, and it was at one point, again, it's more tranquil. They're unplugged. They're relaxing with this tribe, and at one point, who was it? Not Hunter. What's the big Wrecker? Wrecker goes, "Oh man, I'm full," and he hasn't been full in years, he says. And you're like, wow, that's how rough this has been for them. Like, been on the road for like forever. They've just barely had enough nourishment to get them by, and he's just full for the first time. And you just felt for them a little bit, like, man, you have led a hard life for the past few years.
Yeah. Huh.
So that was really cool. That was a different kind of episode. And then the next one, Tipping Point, was back to Crosshair and talking to his story. And you can see they're setting the pieces up so that their stories converge in the next 2 episodes, which both drop next week. So
okay. And is that the end of the season?
Season 2.
Wow. Okay.
So what's the plan? We're going to cover that, right?
We're going to get to that after we get through Mando season 3.
That's right. So be on the lookout for that to come in
Which is
what,
what? Yeah, I
3
was trying.
episodes?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, because we got 2 more after this for Mando.
Yep.
So the 3rd one after that will be Bad Batch,
Yeah.
season 2 recap. So we'll get to
Cool.
all of that later. So anyway, that's one piece of news. What else we
Okay.
got?
Well, one piece of news that it feels like a little bit of a mixed bag, and you guys tell us what you think about this, but apparently Damon Lindelof, who was slated to write the next Star Wars feature film, was there's some speculation that he was going to step away from the project. And we saw some tweets and stuff like that fairly recently, but decided not to report it because who knows? It's not, some of this
Not
stuff was
official yet.
not coming from credible sources and didn't feel official by any means. But today I saw that Variety, which is a more credible source when it comes to entertainment news, is reporting that Damon Lindelof has in fact stepped away from the project. They have named Stephen Knight in his place to write this next Star Wars feature film. Stephen Knight is known for gritty crime dramas like Peaky Blinders and
Mhm.
some other feature films going back to I think the early 2000s. So I think it's a slightly different vibe, a slightly different twist. Don't know what to expect. Hopefully, we'll get some official announcements coming up at Celebration, which is just less than 2 weeks away at this point.
Yeah.
But that's a big personnel change. So not sure what to read into that, and I don't want to read into it too much.
Can I be
But
honest?
yeah,
It's really hard to read to any of these anymore because how many projects have people come on and leave in the last few years? Like, it's just
yeah,
I think we said this the last time we talked about this. We'll believe it when we see a trailer almost. We'll believe it when we hear it enters production, not even pre-production, production.
yeah,
Uh, because the pre-production is where it seems to be falling off the rails a bit. So, like we had the whole, was it Benioff and Weiss? Was that their names?
yeah,
The creators of, not the creators, but the directors, showrunners for Game of Thrones, right?
yeah,
It all kind of started with that. Actually, it started before that with Solo.
yeah. That was a big one.
But that one was at least in production at the time. But all these projects like that, it's y- I, I just kind of let it all pass until I actually see it enter production.
Agreed. And the Variety article went on to make a couple of points and made me reflect on something that I just never really thought about before. And that was they ran through the list of people who are either rumored to have Star Wars projects or who are slated, like Taika Waititi, to
Yeah.
actually create a Star Wars film. And the article was talking about the different people who were sort of lined up and went through their current roster of active projects. And it used to be that if you wanted to make a Hollywood movie at that scale, at that budget, of that quality, you kind of had to go on your knees and go to one of the big studios and get the blessing to make the movie.
Yep.
But today, Netflix is spending a ton on movies and on really interesting TV shows. Amazon's competing in that space, and so anytime one of these writers says yes to something, they're probably saying no to a bunch of other things, and they have more options and outlets for creative work than ever before. And it's
Yeah.
probably harder to book somebody. Like I was reading something about Ryan Johnson the other day, and his show Poker Face on Hulu, I think, is doing really well.
Hmm.
And he's got other stuff lined up. And like, I think there's a bunch of people who are in that position where it's like, look, I'm working with, it's not like I'm just exclusive with this one film studio, like maybe some Hollywood folks were years ago. You've got a million different options and a million different ways to have creative outlets. And
Yeah.
so it's really hard to pin people down at the right time to make the right movie that you want. Maybe something like that happened with Damon Lindelof. Maybe he's got a couple of
Yeah.
irons in the fire and he wanted to focus on those. I don't know.
There could be a lot of things that have happened, but I think we've all known that there's been a little bit of a strategy issue with the film side for a few years now,
Yeah.
and we're all crossing our fingers and hoping at Star Wars Celebration in a few weeks that that starts to get resolved. I actually have a lot of hope. I love using
I
that
do
word.
too.
I have
I
a
do
lot of
too.
hope for what they're about to announce. I believe they've had some time to really pull back and think about what they're doing, and a lot of this does seem to be connected to the I'm forgetting the CEO before him, but some of the things that we heard about the CEO that came back. Oh gosh, why am I forgetting everyone's names at Disney? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mickey.
Mickey. Yeah, Mickey came back to run the company. I'm literally pulling up
Bob
um
Iger.
Bob Iger, thank you.
Yeah.
That replaced Bob Chapek. That's right.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so Bob Iger coming back in and kind of taking a fresh look at things and saying, I'm not so sure about the strategy. Marvel is going through some stuff right now. A lot of their projects have been delayed.
Mm,
They were just ever since the announcement and rollout of Disney Plus, they were just in this get content going now, push, push, push. And I think Star Wars was
a
a bit
huge
at the
part of
other end
that.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big part of that. Yeah, they contributed in a good way.
Yeah.
I don't think people who might not have liked Book of Boba Fett and thought it was whatever. I loved it. There might have been some that said the quality wasn't great of something. I don't know, whatever. But Bob Iger's come in and kind of said we're gonna hit the brakes and really do a strategy refresh, and I think that's what we're seeing happen.
I
That
think
was
you're
a lot to say.
no, I think you're probably right. And I think there is still going to be that expectation though,
Mhm.
when they get into, oh, by the way, while we're both sipping, long live the New Republic.
Long live the New Republic. Good. That's a
Um,
good plug, man. Good job.
um, I think there is expectation that when they go into Celebration, they're going to have some of the answers to some of those questions.
Yes.
Specifically, we still think that we're getting a Star Wars movie next December. What
2025 or something, right?
it might be 25. I
Oh
thought,
yeah, 24, 20. Oh yeah, I thought it was 25. Well,
but so people are going to want some type of update on that.
yeah.
And to the extent that there's going to be, you can't have Celebration without some type of announcement. Not
Well,
in
we're
this
gonna get
era.
some Ahsoka stuff. We might get some Acolyte stuff. So
True.
there's stuff coming, especially on the Disney Plus and TV show side.
Yeah.
But we're Star Wars fans. We started with film. We want to go back to
I
film.
want to go to the movie theater and watch a new Star Wars movie.
Exactly.
Basically
So
every year for the rest of my life. Like, what is the big deal?
yeah, exactly. So we're all just waiting for them to drop something that says, okay, the wait is over. You can come back to the theater and get your
Hmm.
Star Wars, and here's what we got planned for you. So we'll get there. Just
Yeah.
we'll be patient. Anyway, yes, that one was a big piece of news. I saw like rumors about Ryan Johnson's movies aren't happening, but none of that was reported. It just that's been reported every single day ever since Last Jedi came out. So
Hmm.
we'll just wait to see what they really got planned in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But one more piece of news before we
Speaking of
move on.
Celebration,
Yeah.
maybe one just kind of like ad lib thing that I'll throw in here. Um,
Oh.
no, it's a good thing. Since we've never been to a Celebration, I don't know what all goes into this, but it seems like a lot of like the different creators, writers, and so on, like bring stuff to give out.
Hmm.
And Charles Soule gets pins made for every Celebration,
Oh,
and he
cool.
posted a picture of the pins. And apparently, this last one that they did, um, Tommy Stella, who
Yep.
is terrific on Twitter and works with Charles Soule and is a comic book creator in his own right, went around and hid the pins in different places and posted like hints.
What?
So you could like run around and try to find a pin. But
That's
I,
crazy.
I know. And the pins this year are High Republic pins. And at the top, it says, "You are not alone for light and life." And then it's got like the High Republic artwork on
Nice.
it. And
Nice.
it's like a little like quarter size pin, which is
That's
a
cool.
coin that we have here in the United States. I know that we have a lot of listeners from around the world.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, that is true. That's really cool.
Not a lot. We don't have a lot of listeners, period. But
Yes, we do. I'm gonna edit that out.
and I bet you I'm not trying to be condescending. I bet you that maybe some of them have never seen a quarter. I don't know.
Let's. I think they know what a quarter is, but we can move on. Um, it's a fraction of a certain sorts of $1. Anyway,
I
um,
hope I hope somebody downloads this episode and then just skips ahead
I was
and
like,
joins right
okay,
there.
I don't want to hear them talking about money. Um, let's get to the last piece of news before we get to the next segment. How about
Yeah,
that?
sounds good.
Okay. Uh Jedi Survivor. You said
Mm.
you saw something on that in New York, right?
I saw a big, beautiful billboard. Yes.
They dropped the last trailer that came out to celebrate it, and I can't remember the exact date. I think it's April, was it 23rd, 28th? I
Somewhere
should
next
double check
month.
my facts. Yeah, but it's mid to end of April. It's coming out, but they dropped the trailer for it,
Hmm.
and it looks good. It looks really good. Um, I think my favorite part in it, as I
Hmm.
watched the trailer, was watching Marin and Cal Kestis team up.
Mm.
Like it looks like there's going to be some gameplay where you can kind of both play at the same time, or at least do
Oh,
combo
cool.
moves or something like that.
Cool.
It looks really cool. So fact that you're only going to be able to play a um as a Jedi, which that's
Hmm.
what we want to play these games for, so we can be a Jedi ourselves, but you can do so
Sure.
as a Night Sister too now.
Very cool.
That's cool. So that was the one thing I picked up. I'm like, gosh, I'm buying a PS5 now, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Because
PS
it's
Yeah.
exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Twitter
April
was
28th,
going.
by the way. It's the
Got it.
28th.
Twitter was going nuts about the little frog guy in the
Oh,
trailer.
yeah. Yeah, that little frog thingy is, like, under duress, and dress. Yeah,
Everybody wants to
exactly.
know, what's his story? What do we
Yeah,
call him? We need to
yeah.
know everything about little frog bro.
Yeah, he was interesting. There's also, an antagonist that's teased that, is holding a stormtrooper helmet at one point. You only see the
Oh.
back of his head, and he's talking
Hmm.
about, like, "You let this happen, the Jedi failed us," and stuff, so I'm really curious what we're gonna get. So,
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm I'm disappointed that I'm not gonna be able to play this on my PS4, and that I might have to actually go out and get a PS5 now, but same time, like, it's gonna happen at some point, so
It's gonna happen at some point, and now you can actually get them,
yeah.
whereas not all that long ago, like, it was basically
Yeah.
impossible, but
Yeah, exactly.
all right,
You'd have
very
to
exciting
spend a lot
stuff.
of money to to buy one on the, uh, black market or something crazy,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
that's all I got for you, man, news-wise.
Let's move on to
Okay.
our primary segment, and maybe before we even get into that, I'm just gonna mention that this will be spoiler-ridden. We are gonna talk about the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian in great detail, but that segment is called More to the Story.
Bum, bada, bum.
And what do we have this week? We have 2 fantastic episodes. I forget the chapter numbers, but one is
19 and
called
20.
19 and 20. Wow, okay. One is called The Convert, and the other one is called The Foundling.
That's
And
right.
we're going to share some observations from both of those episodes and talk through them at different points in great detail. So, again, if you haven't watched them, it would suit you to go and enjoy those, come back and listen to the podcast. It'll make a lot more sense.
Yes.
Where do we start?
Okay, let's start with where we left off, at the end of chapter 18,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which, by the way, I learned a lesson, and I think I talked about this last time.
What's that?
I skip the intros now.
You do.
Did I do not watch the intros anymore.
You did mention that you felt like they might throw you a little bit.
They spoil. They
That and they
spoil
do
the
they
episode
do
you're about to
spoil.
watch.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's one thing when they're saying, like, "Hey, remember this character?
Yes.
We're gonna talk about them again." That's one thing, but at the beginning of this one, they teased the Mythosaur line, and I'm like, "Oh, great, we're getting the Mythosaur again. That's what we're getting. Great." Like,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
fair.
s- and so I kind of pushed that thought out as I just enjoyed the episode, but then I went to the end. I'm like, they totally told us that was happening.
Yeah, why would they do that? I
Well,
don't know.
because they have to remind you of certain things but like
Yeah, but they don't have to
some are
spoil anything.
inconsequential, some of them are actually
Yeah,
spoiler.
yeah.
That one was a spoiler. So now I'm just like skipping them all together now because I don't want to have to watch an episode. They show Moff Gideon. I'm like, great, great. Moff Gideon's coming back now.
And I've been wondering about that, and I could see them doing something like that. So that's a fair point.
Well, that's a good segue back into this episode.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but before we get to that, uh, we we all left the last episode going, okay, Bo-Katan has seen the Mythosaur, didn't see the Mythosaur. Like, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna go dive back in and ride it out? Like, what's gonna happen? And instead, what we got was Bo-Katan being really cagey, being a little bit, uh, yeah, like Sly, like, did you see this thing? Did you see anything alive down there, Din? Like, nothing at all, really? Okay, and moved on. So that one was that shook. That was like not shook me, but like it caught me off guard. Like, why is she being so weird about this? Why does she not want to say, like, did you see the mythosaur down there?
Well, the Baraxium Twitter had a post about this today, and I don't know who it came from on the Baraxium team, so I
Oh,
can't give
Chris.
appropriate credit. Probably very well could have been Chris. And the question was, did she actually see it? I mean, she saw it, but was it actually
Mhm.
there? Or was it that there's some spiritual power to bathing in the minds where you perhaps have a personal vision of something that is just for you, that is for your experience as a Mandalorian, and not
Mm.
necessarily something that is actually there? And maybe,
So she's having a hard time believing her eyes. You mean?
yes.
Hmm. Okay, I could buy that.
Yeah.
I feel
And I
like,
feel like when she goes and talks to the armorer about it, the armorer is like polite but skeptical, clearly.
huh?
And it's almost like,
You're literally jumping to the end of the next episode. This is great.
yeah, and we don't
But
cover
keep going,
these in
keep going.
order. But the thing that popped in my head was, do you ever watch any of those Bigfoot shows?
No.
There's people out there who are Bigfoot truthers, basically, and they're scouring the countryside looking for Bigfoot. And
Okay.
every once in a while, they run into people who aren't Bigfoot truthers, and they're just like, "Yeah, that's nice."
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's the vibe that the armorer gave Bo-Katan.
That's yeah.
Of,
I think of like the flat earthers as like the equivalent of that.
I saw the Mythos You did? That's really nice. Cool. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it on your shoulder pad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No questions.
We've
Was it
all
huge?
seen the mythosaur.
Yes, I'm sure you did, dear.
So that is a fair point, and I will concede that that could have been
Could be the
what
case.
was
I
going through her head.
I think she saw it. I think it's there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's like I think the basis of the Godzilla movies is that uh, nuclear testing and bombing in the ocean awakens Godzilla,
Mhm.
and I feel like the bombing of Mandalore perhaps deepened the mine waters and whatever, and um, awoke
Release the
from some,
Kraken.
yes, from some type of hibernation or whatever else.
Mm. Okay. I could see that. There's a lot of good theories that I think are out there. We just need to wait a few more weeks to see what's going to
Yeah,
happen. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
but it was still very curious that she didn't even mention any of it to Din. Just nothing. Just completely
yeah,
pass it off. I mean, she's processing it, right? She's trying to wrap her head like, was that real? Like you said, was that real?
yeah.
Um, but I think that she's formulating a plan. She's
Mm,
thinking her through her next move. And I mean, a little bit of education, I guess, on Mandalore culture. Um, there's two ways that you can ascend to the throne. One is with the dark saber, and by
mhm.
conquering it in battle, she lost that one.
Yep.
The other is to ride the mythosaur and to bring in the new age of Mandalore. That's the other way.
Well,
So,
I have a thought about that, but I'm going to save it until the next episode.
really?
Hmm.
Why?
I mean, I can share it now.
I would like you to share it now. I'm like, you've teased it.
Okay, so
But I'm like, what's gonna happen in the next episode that'll make you share it?
in the Foundlings episode, the Foundling singular, sorry.
Oh, you mean the next okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Eh,
no, I don't mean in the next Star Bros episode.
that's what
I
I
don't.
thought you meant.
Wait until episode 70 to hear my thoughts on what Ben just said.
Go ahead
No,
and share it though.
I mean in the next chapter.
Yeah,
So, just real quick, they go up in that nest. The crazy big hawk thing
yeah.
is there. The alligator thing ends up eating it. Boy, I'm being really,
A
I'm,
bunch of reptiles.
yeah, just animals eating each other,
I
whatever.
don't think they all have names yet, or so I think we're
I
totally
don't think
fine
they
just
do.
calling them what they are.
Yeah,
Pterodactyls if you want.
let's use pterodactyl.
Okay.
So they get back to the covert and the Bo-Katan ship, and they bring the three pterodactyl dudes out, the little baby guys.
The Newfoundlings.
Yes, the Newfoundlings. I think that's going to become sort of newly symbolic of the Mandalorians, and I think Bo-Katan is going to be the first one to sort of ride one of those into battle.
I can buy that.
We'll
That's kind
see.
of cool.
We'll see. I don't know.
It's really
Or
intriguing
maybe
that she calls them foundlings, but and
yes.
maybe what?
Maybe some Ewoks will show up and just eat them anyway.
I thought you were gonna say something like roast them on a spit. So yeah, I knew you were going that direction.
You never know.
I know you too well. Um, you know, I could buy all of that, but there's a change in her, and you see it, and we're jumping around to a bunch of different moments, but you see a change in her this episode a little bit. I mean, even on the ship back to her home, she seems just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it's in a good way. Like she's changed. She's reborn. She bathed in the waters just like he did.
Yeah, she doesn't seem upset about it. She seems refreshed by it in some way.
Yeah.
And I think it's tragic but interesting that her home gets blown up.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a home, kind of wherever you are is home, and she finds herself at the covert with the people who are accepting her and bringing her in. And I think all of that is just sort of solidifying like this new phase in her life.
Yeah. She's almost just accidentally stumbled into the covert, which is
100%.
literally how I phrased it. I in my notes here. Like she accidentally got converted.
Yeah.
It's like she didn't even intend it to happen at the end there.
Well,
But
the stars kind of aligned.
yeah, but she wasn't pushing back either. She was just like, no, like this is the group that she called zealots. She
Yeah.
called them a cult.
Yeah.
She badmouthed them. She blamed them for everything that happened, everything wrong that happened in Mandalore, and said, where were you during the purge and all that? Like she's bitter against them. And
Yeah.
as soon as she shows up, she puts all that to the side and says, sure. So that's why I'm like, something's fishy. She's got to be doing something. Like there's something up her sleeve,
Well,
she's planning something.
you
But
know, maybe just that real quick succession of series of events where she goes to Mandalore, sets foot on it in a way where she hasn't before, and bathes in the mine and sees the Mythosaur. Like maybe that's awakening something in her.
it is. I'm not denying that there's a change of heart that's happening while all this it's one of those things where I mean, no, there's an episode of the Bad Batch this season where, just a little bit of kindness turns someone's heart, like who had ulterior motives and who's gonna turn you in and who's going to should be like, look at everything I was able to accomplish by at your expense. Like she could do something like that, but at the same time, when there's just a little bit of kindness shown to her by the covert, she's like, maybe I thought of you guys wrong. Maybe
Yeah.
and she's rethinking her path a bit. So I think there might be, if you have the theory that she's got some nefarious plan up her sleeve, you're right. You're probably right. At the same time, if you believe that she's having a change of heart and she's going to go a different direction, you're probably right. Like
Yeah.
both of those could be happening at the same
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. But let's talk about conversion a little bit. So this episode's called The Convert. And
Right?
when you think about it, it's tough to pin down who that is exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
Because
That's
we
right.
have Dr. Pershing, who is now actively being converted to be a part of the New Republic. And we
Mhm.
could talk about the fact
The
that
amnesty program.
the amnesty program, and you don't get to use your old name in the amnesty program. And
Yeah.
we could talk about why that is. So Dr. Pershing is sort of going through a conversion. Bo-Katan, we just talked about, is going through a sort of a conversion. The Mando is reconverting in this series, going back from being an apostate to being a Mandalorian again.
Mhm.
And there's probably other examples here, like, little Grogu is sort of converting from being a Jedi Padawan to being a Mandalorian foundling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of changes happening that make it little bit tricky to pin down, like, hey, who are we talking about here exactly?
Well, and it's the same thing with the next episode called The
It's the
Foundling, where
same thing.
are we talking about, what was his name? I wrote it down,
Ragnar.
Ragnar. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Ragnar the Foundling, or are we talking about
Grogu?
Grogu the Foundling?
Or the pterodactyls, or like
Or
who?
the pterodactyls, right? Then we got some new let's who's the Foundling? All of them could
All
be.
of them.
Who's the
Yeah.
convert? They're all converts.
Yeah.
And I mean, even you left out, Elia Kane, who
Yes.
we think is converted, but then
He
by
was
the end, we're
playing
like,
the
"Oh, maybe she's not converted."
playing the role of a convert. And let's talk about them a
Yeah.
little bit too. So
Yes.
Dr. Pershing definitely gets center stage here for a little bit. Um, just as a quick reminder, so Dr. Pershing is now joining the New Republic, and he's part of this amnesty program, which it seems like does the work of converting former Imperial officers and the like into upstanding, moral members of the New Republic. And Dr. Pershing, we first see him, he's given this speech, and he's talking about the power of cloning in some very noble ways. And he's
Yeah.
talking about the story with his mother, and if we only would have had organ cloning, who knows, we could have saved her. Does a really good job of telling an emotional story.
Yeah, it's a moving speech, you're right.
It's moving, and it also kind of communicates that he hasn't moved past his work entirely.
Right.
That there's still some part of him that is really curious about the potential of cloning. And even though he has this conflict that he articulates to Kane later about there's moral gray areas in the work that I do, but
Yeah.
there's some potential terrific benefits if he gets the chance to work on it again. So he goes from that speech back to his like little dorm room thing, and it's kind of bleak, and it doesn't have his laboratory, and it doesn't have the things that fascinate him that he wants to work on. And I think that sort of makes him a vulnerable target. But why? Why would Kane set him up the way that she sets him up? What's the point of all that?
So, well, I think there's a reason for that. I think the main reason is because she is not working alone. That she is, yeah, she's orchestrated this whole thing. And if you think about what she's done, she's not being a friend. She says, "I just want to stick here for," like, she's working for someone, Moff
Yeah,
Gideon, who don't know, um, and so she's come into his life purposefully. She's kind of not stalking him, but like she goes and shows up at the speech, and she's purposely like looking at him, watching him, like sitting and thinking about how is she gonna get. I mean, she turns him over to the for infiltrating the Moff Gideon's ship, right?
but
And
she
trying to go back and
manipulates
get
him
to that.
all along the way.
She manipulated. That's right. She manipulated the whole way through.
Yeah,
And by the end, I think she gets what she wants, which is to obviously get him in that chair. So she knows that I need to get him caught so that he's put into this chair, right? Well, I mean, she's basically trying to wipe his mind for some reason, right? And has to figure out a way to get him there. Like that's the whole MO.
so
So she's
that's
playing this like
that.
tripper crossing role. It's great.
So you think she's trying to maybe he's got some incriminating stuff that can help bring down the Empire's cloning program or whatever it might be, and so she's trying to eliminate him in some way as a threat.
Yeah, but who else? Or just or maybe purge his mind at the end. I think we still have to see what happens because like what is she really purging from his mind? Like there's
Yeah,
more than just this one incident to get him back on track that the New Republic is trying to get out of his mind. The rehabilitation, right? That's
yeah.
all they have in mind. But she's trying to get wiped more away. And I don't think it's as much as like he knows too much, we got to get rid of it. I think it's more we need him back on our side.
See, I could see that because if it's like he knows too much, we have to get rid of him, then there are like more permanent, definite ways to get rid of somebody. And
Yeah.
so they want to keep him alive for something, I presume. And they
Yeah,
want to keep him
to
functioning.
continue his work.
Yeah.
Like she got him to go and get all the stuff that he needs, not just because he wanted it, because maybe she needs it too to
Yeah.
continue the work. So there could be a lot of reasons. Like her mission within this program that they're in is not done. She needed that stuff, is my
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think you're
we're
no.
speculating, but it's really interesting just because there's this episode ended up being full of so much intrigue, more than
Yes.
I was expecting.
Yes. Just a couple of quick things that I think are interesting that I want to get your take on. So I wanted to mention very quickly. So I watched this episode again today. I think the longest episode of the season. Is that right?
I think this one was like 59 minutes or so. Yeah, it was almost like
Yeah.
the whole hour.
And then the next one was really short and it kind of threw me off a little bit. But going back and talking about Kane's manipulation a little bit, the carnival scene where
Mm.
they're walking through the carnival eating the glowing popsicle sticks or whatever they are.
Oh, I want
Um,
one of those popsicles so bad now.
I know they're going to be for sale at Batu soon enough. You just wait.
Oh, I hope.
Um, two things I want to mention very quickly. Mount Umate.
Yes.
So, do you know the origin of that?
The High Republic. Light of the
Well,
Jedi.
even before that, Ralph
Oh.
McQuarrie drew it into his first sketches of Coruscant.
Oh. Oh, actually I didn't know that.
So they resurrected that, yeah, from his work.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
See, I just picked up on the C3PO design from Macquarie's paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Drawings, like he just doodled.
He might have been a doodler.
Yeah. But you
But
know the painting. So when he's in the taxi, you've got that droid that turns around and is giving him the
yeah,
tour and everything.
yep,
That's pretty much a spitting image of the droid that he originally drew for C3PO.
yeah, very cool.
That was the Easter egg I picked up on.
But here's one that I picked up on today, and I did some Googling to confirm it. Did you catch the music that's playing at the carnival?
So, oh, you stole mine.
All
I
right.
love this. Thank you. Do it. Tell it.
It's like a carnival-y version of March of the Resistance,
It is.
which is like the primary theme that repeats throughout the sequel trilogy that we first get to experience in The Force Awakens, but comes back again and again throughout the whole trilogy.
Yeah, I picked up on that. I literally picked up on that. I'm not patting myself on the back here, but I am. The first time I'm watching it, I'm listening to the music. I'm like, that's the March of the Resistance.
I picked up on it was a theme from one of the films, but I couldn't put my finger on the name of it, so I had to look it up.
I knew it was Force Awakens, and I knew it was the Resistance. So like my mind was going, this is a musical cue for the audience to say, we're surrounded by the New Republic. You're in the thick of it, and they're connecting, you know, all of the events of the sequel trilogy and the
Yeah,
Resistance specifically to the New Republic. So it was just a clever way so that you could
yeah.
see that they were both connected. So I loved that
I
Easter egg.
I love that too, and I missed it the first time around, but this time it was a little bit more quiet, and I was really paying attention. It just jumped out at me. I love that. Um, but a question I wanted to ask you: so why can't Dr. Pershing, Kane, the others, why can't they just use their normal names in the amnesty program?
So it's a good question. And I've thought about this.
So
And I think there's two
Pershing,
things.
just as a reminder for folks, Pershing is like L52 or whatever. They've all got
Yeah.
letters and numbers and some
Elia
sequence.
Kane is G68. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few thoughts. One, um, I think old habits die hard. And what I mean by that is a lot of these people, a lot of what they know is protocols and lessons from the empire. They know it's bad. They're shedding all that kind of stuff, but they they haven't figured out how to completely shed it. And the culture of it still has its moments of showing itself. And so, you know, this is the empire didn't name any of its troopers. They gave them numbers, letters and numbers. So it's the same concept. And it's a little bit easier for them to go, I guess, with the numbering system still. So I think it's
Mm,
just remnants of the empire. And then the second thing is uh what's the word for this? Profiling? I don't know. I think there's like a different treatment of people from the amnesty program, from those in the New Republic who are like, we were
mm,
the ones that were good this whole time,
mhm.
and we were the ones just waiting to, you know, to do the right thing and to lead once the empire was gone. You were the guys that were the scum and villains, and were part of the empire, and you know, we're bringing you back, but you're not good enough for a name yet.
Mm.
So I could see it as both of those. One is, but honestly, neither of them are good.
Neither of them are good. I tend to agree with that second one a little bit more. Like I think it's a little bit of, if we're gonna put you through this conversion process to be fully functioning members of the New Republic, we have to strip you of your old identity.
Hmm.
And part of a big way to strip somebody of their identity is to take away their name and give them a new one. And then perhaps when you've passed all the different tests to show that you're a fully functioning member of the New Republic, you get to earn your name back. But I do think it also kind of like it's a little bit of like a sign that they have to carry around, that they're different in some way,
Hmm.
and that they are not fully functioning members of the New Republic just yet. Like they haven't earned that privilege just yet.
They're not fully trusted yet. Until you are, we're
Yep.
just going to notice you as a number. You're
Yeah.
going to have all these rules you have to follow. You can't go outside certain boundaries,
Yep. You have
all
to
that
live in
stuff.
this dormitory and whatever else.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, like,
this,
look, it's not that bad if you think about it, because with everything that we know about Coruscant, if you're on the upper levels, you're in the top echelon of society.
life is pretty good, relatively speaking, for sure.
Right, exactly. You get to see the light of day.
Yeah.
There are groups on Coruscant that don't even get that. So
Yeah.
you're not as low as them. You are of value to the New Republic. And so it makes you wonder, the amnesty program, like, it can't be that big. It's only got to be select people that get into it.
I think it's probably just officers.
Officers or people of high value to
Yeah.
the,
Right.
and even then, these are people of high value. I mean, you've literally got one that's a spy, a really good spy,
Hmm.
and then you've got another one who, because look, that whole thing was staged. They knew what they were doing. Like that, it wasn't like she was just turning in another fellow amnesty member. She was able to walk away and be like, "Yeah, we caught you," and stage you like Elia Kane. I look
Hmm.
over like that's her name, right? Elia. Make sure there's no S. I want to say Elias. Yeah, like she was in on that whole thing the whole time. So
Hmm.
she's like their spy in the
Yeah.
program. So she's got skill more than just
Yeah.
a communications officer, right?
Yep.
And then you've got him who's great at cloning,
Yeah.
and they don't want him to use that skill, but they know that he could be of great value, and still they've got him. I stole this a little bit from the Wikipedia. The subheader title that they had for one of the sections was uh, oh gosh, what was it? It was pencil pushing. Pencil Pershing, because his name is Pen Pershing, the doctor.
Uh-huh.
Get it?
Uh-huh.
Point being, he's pencil pushing. He's just doing a desk job.
Well, I think that that's really important. And the reason I think that's important is because who else do we see sitting in this sort of boring bureaucratic job? Cyril.
Oh yeah,
Cyril Karn.
yeah. I
Both
miss
of them are,
Cyril.
are stuck in a space cubicle doing boring bureaucratic work when they have different ambitions. And I
I
think it
miss
put,
that angsty emo dude.
he'll be back. Um, and I think for the both of them, I think it pushes
Creepy.
them in their aspirations to do something different. I think like sitting in that little space, not doing what they want to be doing, what they feel like their mission is, I think makes them crazier. And I think it sort of speeds things up a little bit. So I wonder if Kane
Yeah,
played a role in putting him in a really boring job because she knew that he would get antsy about his work that he really cares about and might be more likely to take a risk and sneak out after dark and jump off a train and whatever else.
I buy that.
Tongs
That's
days,
interesting.
right?
Tongs days, am I right? By the way, Tongs days is Wednesdays, the equivalent of
Hmm.
Wednesdays. And so like the moments between Tongs Day, am I right? Wednesday, am I right? Like Hump Day, am I right? Like it's
Hmm.
playing on
Mm.
that little
Hmm.
fun one. And then when he the officer comes and gives him his next batch of data files that he has to purge, he says a happy Bendu Day.
Yeah.
Remember? That's
Yeah.
Friday. They're
Oh,
saying
okay.
happy Friday, just like
Okay.
what all of us say to each other in the office every Friday. Happy Friday.
Probably makes them crazy. Do you want to know the origins of those names?
Well, Bendu is I mean, that's from oh gosh. Well, it at
It's
first
in
it was
Rebels.
Yeah, it's in Rebels, and then at first it was the name for the Jedi.
Correct.
So,
So that one goes way back.
mhm.
Do you know where Tongs Day comes from?
I thought I just read up on this. I didn't know what it was before though.
The Tong are believed
It's
to
an
be the
animal.
ancient race of people
Oh, it's a race of people. Okay.
who first settled Mandalore.
Oh. You sure it was Mandalore, not Coruscant?
Mandalore.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Tongs Day.
Fun little Easter eggs like that all over the place. This was full
Oh
of
my
them,
gosh, loaded.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, like story wise, this was a really interesting way that they told it. Like they had the bookends of the Mandalorian story, but then they decided to shove in the middle
Yeah.
this big, intriguing spy type story, and
Yeah.
of Penn Pershing and Lana Kane just having their moment together. And I really liked it. I thought it was a nice departure from, um,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, from the norm. Like what we're normally used to is Mando goes on adventure. Adventure
Pew
happens.
pew.
Pew. I mean, that's it. It's not that cut and dry, but it's very much what it's been like. Like he
Yeah.
has a mission. He does the mission, and it's fun. We enjoy it. Moving on to the next one.
Pew pew.
Next mission is harder. You know.
Mhm.
Um, so this was a nice departure. It was more spy thriller type,
Yeah, and
and I enjoyed it.
it's setting up stuff for the rest of the season or for future seasons. And
Yeah,
um, I don't know what the end game is for Kane. We've speculated. I think we're on the right track, but who knows? I don't know what happens to Pershing when he gets
yeah,
out of the mind flayer.
yeah.
What does he know? What does he remember? What doesn't he remember? Does it change his personality in any way? We'll find out sooner or later.
So who do you think she's working for? You're guessing that it's Moff Gideon still?
That's the most obvious one to me.
But I guess in what way? Because I imagine he's in prison, so he's not really dictating her actions from outside.
Right.
Maybe he's
Who does
finding his
he
way.
whoever he works for, maybe, or maybe she's now kind of gone rogue and she's kind of a mercenary and working for the highest payer.
I think she's loyal to him, is what it is.
Probably.
There was like a protocol in place, like, hey, if something happens to me, you're the one to get me out.
Yeah.
There might be something that's like plans that already been laid
That's true.
for her to save him from prison or whatever's going on. So
Yeah.
but I had another question for you,
Yeah.
because we completely bypassed the dogfight at the beginning of this
Oh my gosh.
episode. So amazing.
Yeah.
So many great moments. The
Yeah.
the choreography of that battle was just amazing. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Really well done.
And then they bomb her home, which is really sad. But then there's like a whole bunch of other bombers coming in, swooping in to take them out. And they make mention specifically of this warlord. And who is this warlord that has this entire fleet? Who are they talking about?
I
Do we know?
I have no idea.
Me neither. Like, is it
Um,
Moff? Everyone's going, oh, is it Moff Gideon? Like, that's what they're trying to connect it. But I don't think it is.
I don't think it's anybody. I think it's somebody who I think it's more of like a pirate or like organized crime type of thing, rather than anything having to do with
Mm,
any particular government or anything like that.
okay.
But who? I don't know. Like who would this new
Who would
warlord
do
be?
such a thing?
Who's part of this story now? All of a sudden, I don't know. But that's just like there's a lot to pack in these
Yeah.
last few episodes.
How
There's and
how about Grogu saying his first words?
yes,
He
yeah.
literally says, "This is the way." I
It
mean, we're all
he
assumed to say that
in
like
in,
that.
in his Grogu way.
Yes.
So if sometimes it's really interesting to put on these episodes and turn on the closed captioning
Oh, what
because
did it say?
it's a Grogu babbling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
But we all know what he was trying to do.
yeah, we all know. But I will recommend that every once in a while. If you ever do a rewatch, like throw on the closed captioning because you definitely catch stuff that you wouldn't otherwise. And then they make
Yeah.
choices about how they want to communicate certain things. And in that particular case, they just in parentheses it said Grogu babbling.
Yeah, yeah, they're trying to get some message across. Again, it's for
Yeah,
accessibility purposes. Like for those who aren't able to hear the dialogue, they need to know
yeah,
what's happening too. And so that if
absolutely.
if they wanted to say Grogu has his first words, they would have said that,
Yeah,
right? But yeah, just Grogu babbling.
Yep.
I've done that for a few things, and I know a lot of people who do that every time they watch with or without. But my problem is if I watch with, I'm distracted by them the whole time, so I can't watch the first time with the captions.
It doesn't bug me all that much. The one
Yeah.
time when it came in super handy and recently on a Star Wars show was the episode of Andor after they had broken out on Narkina 5 after they have broken out and they run into those aliens. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
And the aliens first catch them in the net and then they help them out.
Yes.
I was like, I can't understand what they're saying because they were sort of speaking English, but then going back and forth in the alien language, and I put on the subtitles and it confirmed for me that they were saying some stuff that was not in English. And I was like, okay.
I don't think, and same with this one. Like, if you didn't turn on the subtitles, you wouldn't have heard those Anzellans call him say, "No squeezy, bad baby," or whatever.
Right.
You would
No squeezy.
miss that one. No, this one's a fantastic episode. I really like this one. I think the peak of Umate, right, is how you said that. Was probably one of my favorites because it was a great Easter egg from the High Republic, but it was even better just to see it. I mean, just the concept of like, here is the last remaining piece of planet Coruscant that we can see.
Yeah.
And the surface.
And we get it in the next episode too.
Yeah, we do. That's right. That's a good segue to the next episode.
The next episode, the Foundling, directed by the great Carl Weathers of Arrested Development fame.
Yes. Baby, you got a stew going.
But he's been in some other stuff. He's
been a lot of other stuff.
He was the Apollo Creed. He's been in action movies, and he can direct action, I think, particularly well. But this one's got a bunch of what's that?
As we've seen
with
this episode,
time and again. This episode, an episode in the first season.
Yep.
Or is it the second season? I don't recall. Second season. But lots of good stuff in this one. I think the shortest episode of the series.
Very short.
It was like
30 some minutes. 33.
It was 30 minutes. It was just a little bit over 30 minutes if you cut out like the extended credits that list all the different overdubs and all the different languages. It was like 30 minutes and a few seconds. Yeah. It's like a sitcom, basically.
A lot of people were complaining it's not long enough. I need more. And you're like, guys, I like that they just tell the story they want to tell, and whatever time it takes is
right.
Whatever time it takes.
If it takes an hour or if it takes 30 minutes, like that's what it takes. If you don't like it, you go make a Star War. Okay.
Call Kathleen Kennedy and see if you can get the rights to it.
But can I hit you with a couple of just really cool Easter eggs that I enjoyed from this one?
No.
Okay. I'll begin with I will disregard what you just said. Yeah. So in the scene where all the Mandalorians are practicing, where some of them are sparring, some of them are shooting their weapons into the water, they are using EE3 blasters when they're shooting, which is the blaster that Boba Fett carries throughout the original trilogy whenever you see him.
Nice.
Yep.
That's a good one.
And then there was a huge guest star in this one, but there was one who you didn't see, but you heard. Do you know where I'm going with this one?
I don't. Actually, I don't. Oh, dummy.
Tamara Morrison did the voice of the clones.
The clones?
Yeah.
What clones? Oh, the clones.
It went in the Order 66 flashback. Don't let them escape.
Yeah.
That was him. Came back. He did the voices.
There you go.
How cool is that?
Surprised they didn't get D. Bradley Baker to do that.
That's a fair point.
They could have gotten both.
Yeah.
That's really cool, though. I'm glad that they did that. I love that attention to detail.
But we got Jango Fett to come back and do the voices during the Order 66 flashback.
There you go. Very cool.
And one other one. So this is a little bit more of a deep cut. Ragnar, the son. So Paz Vishla's son / foundling.
Yep.
House Vishla, their signet, their animal is the Shriekhawk, the Mandalorian Shriekhawk, which is a giant pterodactyl type bird. So it's interesting that Ragnar gets taken away and saved from a giant pterodactyl like bird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to bunk with those foundlings now.
Yep.
Who were about to eat him.
And they still look hungry.
They yeah, exactly. They're hunting down that meat like they want it. That's
Yep.
true.
Yep.
Um,
So tell
those
me
are some
about your
good ones.
impressions. Yeah, tell me about your impressions from this episode. What stands out to you? What's important to you?
All right, so I'm gonna start with the training scene, which I love the way this was done. It's showing all the Mandalorians train, and then it cuts to Grogu, and he's just enjoying himself by some rocks that are moving around him. And at first, I thought, like, is he moving with the forest? And you find out that there's little crabs, and you just, I don't know, you just feel like here's this little kid that just can't fit in with everybody, and Dad comes along, is like, no, son, it is time for you to fit in and to play the games that we play. Like, very, very
I
much like
felt for him there. I
for
I
Grogu.
yeah, I really felt for him because I
Yeah.
at that moment I was thinking, wait, did Grogu choose to be a Mandalorian or did he choose to be Din Djarin's kid? And being a
Hmm.
Mandalorian comes with that.
I mean, I think at this stage it's safe to say that he chose to be his kid.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, um, but that's a very good point. Um, I mean, so I think that was the first thing I noticed was just that whole scene and how he's really playing this father figure a lot this whole season, and everyone's really liking that. Just like, oh, this cute little father son relationship is really budding and enjoying it. But this is like okay, we're having a serious talk here. You're gonna learn how to be a foundling and Mandalorian and everything, and I'm gonna make you figure this out. I know you can do it. He's like putting him in a hard situation, right? And Bo-Katan calls him out on this and helps
Yeah.
put on the darts on his wrist, which was
And
cute. But
so does the kid, by the way. His sparring partner says, why is he not wearing a helmet? He's too
yeah.
young to take the creed. And then the kid goes, well, then he's probably too young to fight. And I'm sitting on the couch like, right? Like,
Like, why you let the kid go? No, I don't care if it's just little paintballs. No.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but what I really liked about this was what I was about to get to with Bo was specifically how motherly she felt for Grogu. And
It's really warm and kind of protective in a nice way.
yeah, exactly. And the way that she just says, like, my dad was tough on me too, and reassuring, like, you got this. It felt very motherly. So I look at this, I'm like, is is there going to be this like co-parenting thing for Grogu going on here now? Like, not saying like Din Djarin and Bo-Katan are going to become an item, not
No,
that at all. But I mean, co-parenting, right? They're not romantic partners, but they are partners in parenting this child.
well, they
And
know him. They know him better there. There, they know him better than anyone else does.
right,
She
and
seems
she knows the
emotionally
Jedi and
invested.
everything too.
Yep. And
So she's going to encourage that out of him, I think.
but I think it's also cool that Grogu came from this Jedi Padawan background, where when he was a youngling and had a community. And if you look at how the Mandalorians went after Ragnar when he got taken away by the pterodactyl thing,
Yeah.
it was the whole community went basically. Like a
Yeah.
lot of the leaders and the standouts were all sort of plotting together and figured out how to go after him.
Yeah.
And it's cool that Grogu has that now, but there's really only a couple people there that know him. And
Hmm.
it seems like the couple people there that know him care about him a lot.
They do, yeah, and it's a very different turn for Bo-Katan versus kind of how she was treating him at the beginning. Like, she was applauding him a little bit and
Yeah.
saying, "Wow, you must be quite the navigator then if you found me." But at the same time, she'd be like, "What are you looking at?"
Yeah.
And kind of short with him and weird. But this is a totally different. This is a totally different character, I feel.
And maybe that's
Change of
part of
heart.
her shift. Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
part of her shift of she's now part of this covert of Mandalorians and he is part of it too. And so she's viewing him as a fellow community member rather than like, some kid who just showed up with
Yeah.
R5 on her landing pad.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I think this is, but that's what stood out to me in this early part was just her character being that reassuring mom next to the tough dad,
I
and
like that.
it's like, I'm a big proponent of family, and how
Mhm.
important parents are in the life of their children and stuff, and um, it's there's a lot of studies that show of like what happens when like the father isn't around, right? And so like yeah, Grogu has a really good dad. That's good to see. But it's really good to see that he has another loving partner as well that's helping to raise him. And so I just I don't know, that just really hit home for me.
Yeah.
And just kind of hit the whole like he's got a family, and he's part of
Yeah.
a family, and he's never had that
No.
in his
And
50 plus years of existence.
and speaking of parenting, Clay Christensen, who we both like,
Yeah.
who was an author who has a couple of terrific like business, but also kind of like personal
Life.
development type books. Yeah. Talks about how talked about, I should say, he's unfortunately passed on now, but
Yeah.
how it takes so much to raise kids and nobody can do it all. Like you can't be the dad and the soccer coach and the piano teacher and this and that and everything else. But you can be thoughtful about like who is going to play that particular role for my kid.
Right.
Like, and so I'm wondering, like, Mando is going to play the fatherly role. Mando has a lot to teach and pass on. What unique things does Bo-Katan have to teach Grogu?
Hmm.
And that's going to be sort of his like curriculum as a Mandalorian, right? Like he's going to learn from different folks, and they're going to teach him different things. And
Yep.
I wonder what like Bo-Katan, but what Bo-Katan's going to instill in him. What is she going to teach him that he's going to take away? It's going to become part of his personality, part of how he does his work as a Mandalorian.
Yeah. I remains to be seen, but I have a feeling that she's gonna be that reminder to him of the other Jedi side of him,
Mm,
and maybe encourage that to come out a little bit. She's not gonna know how to train him in it, but since she's been around Jedi, she can teach
I love
Grogu
that.
the principles that she saw them
Yeah,
emulate and talk about the Force with him, so there could be a lot that
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 could be
comes
really
from that.
cool.
Um so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of that. That gave me a little bit of hope that maybe we are seeing the Bo-Katan that's turning a corner, that is converted uh and part of this group. And I think she becomes a little bit more converted this episode, which we'll get to in a second here. But you mentioned Ragnar. He gets taken by this pterodactyl like creature,
Hmm.
taking him back to this nest. You're right. Everybody chases after him, but Bo-Katan is the one who was smart enough to jump in the ship and say like and
Yeah,
figure out exactly where he was going, um, and map that out. So
and
yeah,
it's
she
really
gets
far, and
yeah,
so she really needs this ship because the jetpacks just don't have enough fuel to get to where it is.
right, exactly. So because of that, I mean, she basically leads this group and in going to get him, but little Grogu has to stay behind. And the scene that we get between Grogu and the armorer is is really good.
It's
And
really good and it's really moving. And like I said, I watched it again today, and it's emotional. Like
it is.
it's a little bit hard to watch because you can see how painful it is for him.
Right, his little face drops at one point, and you're like, "Oh, this little," like it's a little $8 million puppet that's being animated,
Yeah,
right? But you're also going, "Oh man, that I see the emotion in that face."
that the thing that really got me is in the flashback. So we're talking about the scene where he goes to see the armor, and as she's hammering and the sparks are flying, you can see the reflection in Grogu's eyes. And we flash back to Order 66, and
Mhm,
he's in his little hover pram, and he very subtly is almost hiding behind his blanket. Do you see that? Like he's pulling
mhm.
up on his blanket a little bit,
Yeah,
because he's a
eh,
terrified little baby.
he is, and he literally is just a little baby at that point.
Yeah,
He's helpless. He's completely at the whim of those who are taking care of him. He can't do anything for himself. And you even notice a little bit. I'm guessing it's animated. I'm guessing they didn't make a second $8 million puppet, but it looks younger.
it looks younger. It looks like a little bit smaller, like
Yeah.
if he's a toddler now, like this is like the baby Grogu.
This
Um,
is really the baby Grogu,
but
the baby Yoda.
the babyest Grogu. Another really interesting parallel here, and then we'll get to the huge reveal
Yes.
of I think a really exciting moment for a lot of Star Wars fans that have been fans since the prequels. There's that moment where Grogu gets in the elevator, and the Jedi who is protecting him struck down, unfortunately, and he has that ride up in the elevator that somebody pointed out to me. kind of mirrors Luke's ride up and like him getting into the elevator with Luke at the end of season 1. Was that the end of season 1 or end of season 2?
2.
When end of season 2.
Yeah.
So both of these moments are pivotal moments for him in his life path, both sort of like from the transitional space of an elevator that leads you from one place to another.
Never would
And
have thought of that.
yeah.
I like it.
And then when he gets to the top, the doors open up, and who's there but
Ahmed Best.
Ahmed Best.
Oh, so good. Part of the reason why this is called the best of
Yes.
Bo-Katan in this episode. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even connect it to the character he was playing. I think a lot of I think some people connected to the character first, and then some people connected to the actor first. I was in the camp that connected it to the actor first. So I just went, "Oh my best! Oh my gosh, he's actually in live action. This is amazing!" Like it was so exciting to see him. And it just felt like this moment of redemption.
Totally, just a moment for him to shine.
Yeah.
And to, I think, cement a different spot for him in Star Wars, where he's already contributed so much, but now he gets to be a Jedi. He gets to be the Jedi that saved Grogu.
Yeah.
By the way, that morning, our bro host Chris Ryans tweeted something about this episode. And he tweeted something cryptic because he didn't want to drop any spoilers.
Sure. Yeah.
But he tweeted something like, "They did it." Like, "Oh my gosh, they did it." Like something like that.
Yeah.
And you know where my mind went? Because Chris has been speculating that Grogu's going to turn to the dark side. That's where my mind went.
He's like, he's just had enough. Didn't see that one coming, but he just, something happened. It was enough for him to just go, you know what?
So it was like 7:30 in the morning, and I saw his tweet, and I was just like, oh no, Grogu went to the dark side. But it ended up being a happy story. And it ended up being that they brought back Ahmed Best. And
yes.
He's now Kelleran Beck.
Kelleran Beck, yep.
The Jedi with the coolest robes of all the Jedi.
Yeah.
Very, very High Republic-y.
Yeah.
But then he goes through the process where he has to fight a bunch of Tamara Morrisons running at him. And a heartbreaking moment when he lands by the Nubian yacht. And he's talking to those guys, and they're like, "Where are the others?" There are no others. Very sad.
Yeah.
But then and then off they go, and we don't know what happens after that. We don't know where Grogu ends up.
Well, we don't. And just real quick for those who are like, "Who's Kelleran Beck?" What? And so, a few years ago, there was a kids show that was introduced on Star Wars Kids TV, YouTube, basically, and it was hosted by Ahmed Best, and he's a supervisor of Padawans essentially, and it's in a game show format, but it's but it's that character. It's the fact that there really was a supervisor of Padawans. So the thing about this is, not only was it just like, let's find a way to get Ahmed Best in here, and let's find a way to. It works story wise.
Oh, totally.
He's a supervisor of Padawans. That's his role. That's his job in the temple.
He would probably know Grogu and
yes.
And perhaps even know that there's something special about him where he's got to save him. But one little detail that I really loved is that he picks up the fallen Jedi's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And they basically said, "You know what, Ahmed, it's not just going to be one light. You can actually swing two lightsabers.
You're going to wield two."
Here you go, buddy. We're making up for lost time.
I mean, yeah, it was a great moment for the character, and again, it just worked story wise, and I just yelped Ahmed Best when I saw it, and then at the end of I had to explain to Susan who Ahmed Best was, and why that was so big of it, so much of a big deal. So. And then it was also really cool that he went to a Nubian yacht, like he said. Like, oh, we're bringing that in. And the first thought I had was like, wait a minute, that's not the same one. It can't be, because
no, it was different.
Order 60. Well, yeah, because it's during Order 66, and Padme was taking hers.
Yeah,
so different one, I'm guessing.
Yeah, slightly different size, but definitely that same cool look.
Right, but it still made you wonder, whose is it? Because again, it's a yacht.
Yeah,
it's a special high end one.
And those look like the type of guards who would have been around Padme and stuff like that. So
they're from Naboo, so maybe it's maybe from whoever the queen was at the time. I don't know if we know who I don't know if
I
I
don't
know who
know.
the queen one was at the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but just really interesting. Goes into hyperspace, flashback over. I hope we get more of that flashback, like what happens after that. But
I think we're going to get more, but I feel like we're going to get more, like a little bit more every season, not like in a
yeah,
couple
not
episodes.
exactly. Like we got last season, the beginning of this vision,
Yeah.
just a small little tidbit of it, and
Yeah.
that was all we got.
Yep.
So I
So
think
by the
we
way,
are going to get.
somebody on Twitter called this like a month ago.
I think you're right. I remember hearing some rumor about it, and with all rumors, I just push them off.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think again, our bro host Chris Rhines retweeted it just to give the person credit, but there's a YouTuber or podcaster or somebody who was like, "I'm calling it now. Keller and Beck saves Grogu."
That's so cool.
It's
And you
amazing.
know what? Good for them. Like you're totally fine to speculate. I'm just because I do it a little bit too, but I want to avoid spoilers. I more just want to avoid the people who have other agendas when they're doing
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And
more
a
to
lot of
just
them do,
do that. Yeah.
unfortunately. The craziest one I ever saw, by the way, though, was I think it was like 2005 or something like that. No, it was when Disney bought Star Wars, I think.
2010, 12, no 12,
2012
2012.
sounds right. Um, somebody was like, "Oh, they're going to make more movies. What's the first movie going to be called?" And somebody on a message board somewhere wrote, "My pick is The Force Awakens." And then 3 years later, we found out what the title was. So either that person had some insider knowledge, or they just came
Oh,
up with the name.
and I'm guessing they got no royalties at all.
Probably not.
um no, so it was a great flashback. What I really liked too, by the way, of this whole scene was what kicked it off with the armor and her explanation. Like you go
Yeah.
through trials, and and going through this forging process, you're forging yourself. By the way, that is very you know there's a lot of scripture, there's a lot of like Christian ties in there with that. So I imagine a few people were like, hey, that's really cool that you're pulling that in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's this whole like going through the refiner's fire idea, and we do that in life. And so they pulled a lot of that imagery in there um, with making the Beskar steel and the armor, and just like your armor is not just, uh, it's not just to protect you, but it's made up of all the experiences and trials and tribulations that have gone before you, and that's really what's protecting you. So it's got a spiritual symbol as much as it has a physical one,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was beautiful. So the way she explained that was great. And then we flash back to the group that's going to save Ragnar.
By the way, real quick,
And
I
yeah,
I thought that my first thought was like, wow, that's doesn't seem to fit him all that well. But
it's
I
pretty
guess he'll
big.
grow into it.
You know what it looks like? It looks like someone who's got like bling that's like way too big for them, but it works, you
It
know?
looks like if you held up like a hubcap off your car to your chest, like that's
Yeah.
basically what it looks like. But yeah,
Like I
maybe
just walk around wearing a hubcap. Yeah. To
he'll hopefully
scale.
grow into it. But yeah, so and then we flash back to a thing that popped in my head. So I'm not one of these people who's like critical of stuff like the physics in Star Wars of like, yeah, but how would that work? Or like
Okay.
or ordinary things. You know, people just like nitpick little things in Star Wars and they like it a lot of times it's stuff that I
It's
would
not
just
just Star
never
Wars, it's everything, but yeah.
everything.
They just
Uh,
have that need to pick.
but in Star Wars, like it particularly gets to me because people will be like, well, you know, it doesn't make sense. Like there's a continuity error here, or whatever. I'm like, so that bugs you, but laser swords, the force, hyperspace travel, whatever else, you're fine with all that. But this one thing bugged you. So one thing jumped out at me in this episode. Actually, two things.
And it bugged you?
It didn't bug me, but I just thought it was kind of funny.
Okay.
Um, one, when they go to save Ragnar from the nest, I was like, wow, like this pterodactyl nest looks really dry, and they've all got their jetpacks on. Are they going to set the thing on fire? And they didn't.
Okay.
That was one thing. My other thing, which I don't know if it was a continuity error, but when Keller and Beck is escaping from the temple, and you've got this great shot of the temple burning in the background, and they're zipping through Coruscant and going under the different lanes and through the like subway and whatever. Like every other shot, Grogu's pram was closed, and then it was open, and then it was closed. And you do see him like open and close it,
Sure.
but I don't. Was he just hitting the button over and over again and kind of closing it and opening it? Or was it that at certain shots it's just cheaper to animate it closed? I don't know.
I didn't pick up on that. Maybe I'll watch it again and see what happens there. But
I'm not
you know, that
nitpicking.
little stuff happens sometimes, and you just you
Sure.
gotta
No, it's
look past
totally
it. But
fine.
like, I didn't. That's interesting that you saw that. Occasionally, I do notice those type of things out, but
It's fine.
um,
It's fine. It doesn't take me out of the story.
yeah. But getting back to this, the scene where they're preparing to go save him, and they
Mhm.
decide to camp out and have that fire. That's a really cool moment there. So everyone's about to eat, and
Yeah.
Bo-Katan's like, "Hey, what do we do? Like, how do we do this? And they say, "Well, we all split up. We go our separate ways. We eat, and then we can come back." And then Paz
They
Vizsla
eat
has a moment.
alone just like I did in high school. Go
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Just like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go on.
Um,
But
it was
she
good.
gets the honor of eating by the fire.
But yeah, which was honestly great, and I think that was 2 things. One, it was a great gesture by Paz Vizsla,
Mhm.
who, you know, we've all said a little bit like, you know, what's that phrase? Like the burr under his saddle or whatever. Like what's got him all like up in a knot, you know? Like
Mhm.
why is he just so angry and difficult all the time? He's
He's
been
pretty
that way a few times this season.
he's pretty gruff, yeah.
Yeah. Um and then he has this moment where he shows a little bit of respect for her, like, you're the leader of the pack, you get to stay by the fire.
Mhm.
And and I think it was really cool, cool gesture by him. And honestly, as he says, this is the way, so he's committed to the way, and so that's part of it.
Mhm.
um but then secondly, she gets a little bit more converted by that, like, oh wow, this covert that I badmouth is really showing me some really nice, like, they're welcoming me with open arms, like, maybe this
They
is the way.
they respect her enough to include her in what they consider their customs,
Yeah,
and she's not not enough of an outsider that they don't
she's been
observe
redeemed,
those. Yeah.
right. So I thought that was just a really nice moment.
Yeah.
um
And I think Mando and Paz have a redemptive moment together when he's
yeah,
the one that actually saves Ragnar.
yeah, exactly.
And you it's wild to me how they're all wearing masks and you can't read the emotion, and they're hanging onto the side of this mountain, so you can't even really read the body language all that much. But what they communicate in their voices and just gentle nods like says it all. Like
Yeah,
Paz is deeply appreciative.
you saved my son. And we, by the way, we
Yeah,
didn't know that this was his son until they're climbing up the mountain and get to the
which
very top, and he rushes in there.
I don't get. I thought this kid was a foundling too.
Well, he is.
So he's a foundling who's the adopted son of Paz?
Well, I figured that he was the actual, no, like, biological son of Paz, but I
Okay,
don't
I
think you have to be uh
actually found somewhere.
saved and yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like, I think
I
the
thought it was
foundling
like
is
an
just like a Padawan, just for
okay.
Mandalorians.
I think I misunderstood it as they were like orphans that the Mandalorians took in to raise
They
as
can
their
be.
own.
Yeah, they
But
can be.
yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question, but my guess is that they could be both.
Okay. Okay. We'll
Like,
go with
what are
that.
they gonna do to the kids you're not an orphan. We don't care about you.
Right. We'll leave you somewhere. We'll come back and find you in a few years and you can technically be a foundling.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. Like, you're not a foundling until we've abandoned you and left you, with nothing.
It'll toughen you up.
Yeah, if you survive this, then we'll call you a foundling and
Yeah.
train you in the way of the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
No. The last moment that I want to talk about here is, all right. So yeah, they save Ragnar. You mentioned the great moment between Paz and Mando. I don't know if we call him Mando anymore. He's just Din. There's
Yeah.
too many Mandos. And I mean, he still got that nickname, I guess, from everyone else. But
He's still the Mando in my book.
right. Bo-Katan comes back, and she said, you have, what was it, like, bestow the highest honor
Mhm.
that Mandalorian can bestow, or
Isn't that
you
cool?
achieve the highest honor.
The highest possible honor is saving a foundling.
Yeah,
How cool is that?
it's really cool. And I'll be honest, like, I was a little bit nervous that I wouldn't like the way. I'm starting to like the way.
What do
You
you
know what
mean?
I mean? Like, this is the way. I'm like, "Is this the way?" And now I'm like, "Maybe this is the way," you
We're
know?
definitely seeing the good side of the way.
We're seeing the good side lately, yeah.
Like the healthy part of the community, the respect,
Yes.
the saving the less strong from pterodactyls, whatever else.
Yeah, exactly, but, like, it just continues to, elevate Bo-Katan in the eyes of the audience. Like,
Mhm.
we see her doing all this stuff too, and then she even says, "This is the way," at one
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
I think she is converted now. Like, I'm less concerned that she's gonna go completely AWOL at the end of this, that maybe she does have this ulterior motive, but she might not go through it completely as planned. Like, she's going to, I mean, and we kinda see that happen already. Like,
Yeah.
she didn't tell Din about the Mythosaur or anybody, and then she's sitting down with the armor, getting this new shoulder pad, and having
Mhm.
this whole conversation um, about seeing the Mythosaur. So what did you make of this scene?
Pardon me. Um,
Got you at the wrong time.
I think part of it is she was maybe feeling it out for herself a little bit,
Yeah,
asking the armor about the mythosaur, seeing the mythosaur. It would be fair to say if anybody saw something like that, they might not believe their own eyes, and so maybe that was the process of her trying to learn from the armor a little bit of like, are these things still around? Like, did I really see this? But she
sure.
seems to believe it enough to bring it up. Um, but this is her first moment. I feel like the armor's position in the covert is both like communal, but also it seems like everybody probably goes to her one on one with different stuff.
Yeah,
To,
she's
um,
wise.
she's wise. She's got that mentor vibe. She's got um, she's got wisdom to share, practical knowledge to share, and stuff like that. And this is like the first one on one between Bo-Katan and the armor,
Yeah.
and there's ritual to it. So she's building her shoulder pad and talking about what she wants on it and stuff like that. Um, I think in addition to her not taking her helmet off, like this is another like I think open like commitment that she's making to the covert. Like, yeah, make the armor made me my shoulder pad, help me pick the sigil that's going on it, and now I'm going to proudly wear it wherever I go.
Yeah.
I think it was part of her like continued indoctrination into being like a true Mandalorian. But yeah, I think that like there was a little bit to it that was like I had this unbelievable thing happen. Like, can you help verify it for me in any way?
Yeah,
And
like, what do you think this means? Not just
yeah,
seeing, and she clarifies, like, "No, this wasn't a vision. I mean, I saw one in the
yeah,
waters." She gives it away.
yeah.
So, at first, she doesn't do it with Din, and I think part of that is because she knows that Din right now is the rightful ruler because he owns um, the dark saber. But, you know, she's obviously entrusting the armorer with this information now.
Yeah.
Like, the armor could just be like, "Oh, really? That happened? Bye. I'm going to Mandalorian to ride that mythosaur myself."
Yep. Yeah.
No, she's entrusting her and
Yeah.
seeking the wisdom. And it's funny because at first I'm like, the armor was kind of, I don't know, short with her a little bit. She was just like, "This is the way." There was a lot said in that though. I think she was
Oh,
just basically
yeah.
like, "I believe you. And if
Yeah.
this is the case, remember, this is the way. That's what the lore says.
Yep.
So follow it." Is
Yeah.
kind of what I heard from it.
I think that's totally fair, and I think we might see some of that in the next episode.
I think so too. So let's end on that note. We actually didn't get to one of my things
What's
that I
that?
really want to
Real
talk
quick.
about with you, real quick. One does not speak unless one knows.
Mm.
It was just a really interesting quote, and I wanted to dig into like what does that mean more. But we'll save that for another time if it comes
We
back
will
up.
save that. Yeah.
So on that note, we'll leave
Yep.
you to really think on what does that mean in your, I don't
Yep.
know, dreams tonight. I don't know. I'm being creepy now. Thank you, listeners, for hanging in there with us
Yes. Thank you.
through all of our craziness. We really appreciate you being here and being part of the conversation with us. Let us know what
Always.
you want to hear. what you want us to talk about once Mandalorian is over. If there's anything on your mind or anything cool you think we should discuss,
Yeah.
you can reach out to us on Twitter at Star Bros Podcast. You can email
Yep.
us at the Star Bros Podcast. Can they find us on Facebook anymore? Do we do anything there?
The 3 people that follow us on there.
Yeah, I was like, we're focused on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, and Hive as well.
Yeah,
We're
true.
at Star Bros Podcast on Hive, and you can find us on the Baraxium YouTube channel, where we feature both our episodes. We have some YouTube shorts, I think they're called, and then we do about once a month we'll do a spoiler-free preview of a Star Wars comic book coming out called the Quick Shots. Yeah, the Baraxium Quick Shots.
Right. Good plug for all of that too. So thank you for being here. Make sure to check us out everywhere that you want to find us. And on that note, in the way that that other Easter egg that we didn't talk about, that what's his name said? Oh, as I drops off, Pen Pershing, Dr.
Yes.
Pershing. It's a wrap.